speak up. I'm here on behalf of the Cambridge Cycling Campaign. Firstly, to welcome prominent cycle racks on Morton Road and Kingston Street. And also, we would like to support calls for cycle parking on Thoday Street. Particularly keen that this should be positioned off the pavement in order to free space for people using pushchairs and wheelchairs. Do councillors support the principle of more cycle parking in residential areas in the East area?
Councillor Kavanagh.
Yes, Councillor Kavanagh from Coleridge Ward. I'm also County Council cycling champ, and I fully endorse the increase of secure cycle parking, not just in the streets you just mentioned, but also across the city. And I work closely with the cycling team at Shire Hall to try and facilitate that. So yes, is the short answer.
I think Councillor Thoday has his hand up. Well, I think you've got a hand up.
Thank you, Chair. The short answer is yes on the cycling thing. The parking on the street is a very good idea, especially if we can get it in places where it's not in the way of anything else. There must be lots of corners and bits of pavements that aren't needed. We've introduced odd bits the last few years in Mill Road, for example, outside the tanning salon. We've got some new ones in there. There's lots of places. The Thoday one you particularly mentioned is problematic. I've spent a lot of time talking about this one, and in fact the people who live nearby are very evenly balanced for and against, and it's very difficult to come up with a particular public thrust so far. I think we need to do more research on that. You know, it's one of those things that affects different people in different ways. For a lot of people, some can get their bikes around the back, some cannot. The permanent loss of a parking space is to many people a problem. In the small streets of Cambridge, we do have an open provision of cars from people's houses and a limited number of spaces, and the loss of a space is to some people something they don't want. Personally, as a cyclist and a driver, I'm fairly understanding of both positions. So I think at this moment we're probably going to have to do some more research on the Thoday one to see if we can get a better view of what the people who actually live there really need.
Can I just point out a further thing? As you say, the residents are split 50-50 on this, but it seems to be that we've got a 50-50 split, but we're talking about not a minority of the street. We're talking about one car parking space, not the allocation of parking across the whole street, and therefore taking a view on what views the minority of the space doesn't quite necessarily seem to be the way to deal with this.
Okay. Other members still wish to ask this question? Councillor Gardis.
Yeah, again, you know, the short answer is yes to the question, that I'm all in favour of more cycle parking. As Councillor Kavanagh said, actually we need to look at it right across the city. Just on the back of what you were saying about Thoday Street, I think because we are essentially representing all residents, so actually we do have to look carefully and take account of what's being said. Now at the Thoday Street, two separate residents approached me asking for more cycle parking, particularly with one resident who was giving up their vehicle with the aim for their family to be more a cycle-friendly family, but realised that the houses, his hallway didn't really accommodate all the bikes with the kids. So I put that forward to officers, and then there has been, and obviously that then triggered consultation across the street. You know, when that consultation came in, it was split. So the way forward with that is looking at that again, and which is happening. So I'm hopeful that I think actually it's a really good example, but obviously it does need to be done democratically. and it was inconclusive when that one asked for residents' views. But actually, the number of residents that were engaged and came back on that consultation wasn't, in my opinion, extensive enough, which is why it's been floated again. So I'm really hopeful that that can move forward. And, you know, there have been, as Councillor Saunders pointed out, some new cycle racks that have been put in. So I was grateful to the ones outside the tanning salon tonight when I was looking for somewhere to park my bike. So, you know, I hadn't spotted those before, so I thought, yeah, brilliant. I think that's all I'll say on that. But yeah, you know, I think I'm completely behind it, and we'll be looking at that and, you know, welcome other residents in other streets to come forward, and we would do similar as I've done for Thoday Street residents.
Councillor Brown.
Thanks, Chair. Tempting to give the single syllable answer to this question, which is yes, in case you're wondering, but I will elaborate. I think this isn't just an issue of ex-cycle spaces versus a single car parking space. They're not the only interested parties. The streets in question are extremely narrow, have extremely narrow pavements. Quite often there's a line of parked cars along them. If you're trying to get along there, if you have a pushchair, a wheelchair, or you're just carrying even bulky shopping bags sometimes, particularly if you're walking past a pub where there are a lot of bikes parked outside, as can often happen, it can actually be very difficult to get past. And I think adding extra cycle parking in the street really helps alleviate that by just sort of making it more convenient for cyclists and actually motorists, because taking cars off the road by providing extra cycling facilities is reducing congestion, but also users of the pavement, which is everybody. So this is actually, I think, a win-win situation.
Councillor Saunders, come back, and Councillor Stark.
Just I thought I'd better just mention I'm actually a member of the recycling campaign, so I do have an interest in this. You know, cycling does matter to me. This is not something I take at all lightly. Indeed, living in the middle of Cambridge, I've actually sold my car, which hopefully helps this issue, and actually do cycle or walk or take other forms of transport most of the time. But my job as a councillor is to take the interest of everybody in mind, so I do have to, you know, look for that consultation and what's the interest of the greater good, really.
Councillor Stark.
Thank you. I think one of the problems is that people do have a tendency to believe that the piece of highway outside their house belongs to them, and therefore when they give up their car, they can ask for cycling provision outside it because they've given up their car. Which, you know, we all know, the highway is the highway is the highway, and in any case, if there are cycle racks there, that means that a car can't park there at all, even when the person who believes it is their space, as you might say, isn't there. It is not as straightforward as sometimes it looks as though it ought to be. As several people have said, the consultation was absolutely split. Now, whether everybody who some people are saying, well, of course, if you agree with it, people tend not to respond, and that is perfectly true. But I think we really do. It is not clear what should be done, and therefore doing it, whatever it might be, immediately is not an option, because it is not there. As others have said, we do need to look at it further, and particularly to encourage people to respond if they're in that particular stretch of the street, because that, I think, is the crucial issue. Not whether myself, who live in the parallel street, think it's a good idea or not, but whether the people in that particular part of the street think it's a good idea. I think that's the crucial thing. We will see. Watch this space.
Okay. A variety of answers there.